Hello everyone, it's Christine here and I am excited to be back to share a little tutorial that I've been wanting to do for a while, and thanks to those of you that have specifically requested it. Special call out to Peter in Scotland, and also some of the other lovely folks who've said they're really enjoying this texture play that I'm doing after the Fleurwoods art retreat that I attended. And so these are some little fungi or mushrooms that I created when I was at the art retreat. They were things that came out of my imagination, came out of my hands as I was playing at the table. And so, yeah, we'll be making a couple of these today. And I thought rather than just making some random fungi or mushrooms, we could also make a little brooch. And so I've taken my inspiration from a river rock that I picked up while I was in Alpine, Victoria. A rock would be probably a bit heavy as a brooch, so I'm planning to use a felted base, and I'll come back and show you how I've started to create my rock base. I've gone with the sort of form and shape of the rock, and then I've got a whole range of other lovely materials on my surface here, including some other lovely texture props that I've been creating. So we will come back and put together a little scene, like a little microcosm of what you see on this much larger piece, because that was essentially a week's work. Obviously we're doing other play and learning other things at the same time, but this was what evolved over the course of a week. So first of all, you will need a pipe cleaner. You can make it any colour that you want your mushroom or fungus to be. I like using the white just because it's a basic colour, but I've got a whole vase of fluoro and quite vibrant coloured pipe cleaners, so I'm sure there will be some of those in my future as well. And then I'll be using just some regular white wool. I think this might even be a polyester one. It's back from early days when I was starting out with knitting. I can only knit rectangles or squares. And I thought I might also try this glow-in-the-dark yarn that I got as part of my recent birthday wool order from Wool Chambers, as well as the beautiful fibres that I'll be playing with in this piece. So what you're going to want to do, I'll use one of my ones that I was actually starting with before, that's a bit more bent. You're going to want to do a nice tight spiral with your pipe cleaner. And you'll want to spiral it until you get to the size that you want the top of your mushroom, the mushroom cap, I guess, or fungi cap. Are they still called a cap on a fungi? And I'll probably use most of the length, and then we need just a bit of length for the stem as well. If you've got shorter pipe cleaners, you might need to just wind a couple together, or you can make them, like I made one of my little mushrooms very petite, so yeah, it depends what size you want them to be. And then I'm just going to bend it over to the centre-ish and just sort of hold it there while we start the process of stitching. I've got my largish eye needle threaded up with some wool. I'm going to put a knot in the end. Not that it really matters too much. You could also just hold it in place while you start your stitches, but hopefully this will just make it a bit easier. And then I'm going to grab my spiral and just give it a little bit of a twist just to get it nice and tight. Going to come through from near the centre. Oops, I'll just try and secure my knot underneath, and then once the stitches sort of go in, it will hold itself anyway. And then I'm going to just start putting some loops over the pipe cleaners. I'll probably head to the outside first, and then I'll capture two, oops, not there. My aim will be to capture two spirals of the pipe cleaner, so I start to hold those two outer spirals together. I don't think there's any particular real method. I don't recall any particular real method when I was just playing with this as a idea at the workshop. But you want to just start getting your spirals holding together as a cohesive whole on the top. So I'm just doing loops over the two outer spirals first of all, because I think it'll then be easier to work into the centre. But I'm sure you could do it any which way you wanted. Main thing is just to start to get your spirals holding together. sorts of fibres from my desk trying to jump into my mushroom. So we've gone around that way, and now I'm going to just capture the next two, so the sort of second outer and the next rung in approximately. Still need to capture those two outer ones, so I'm just sort of jumping around depending on where it looks like it needs to be captured, and if I've got any loopy threads I'll just sort of anchor those down in the process. So now I'm going back through those inner layers. Managed to get some different coloured. That's okay, we'll just pretend it's a little slight. I think I just picked up a bit of the fibre from my rock. That's the knot that's actually come through to the front, but that's okay, I'll just stitch it down. Just going to pop through to the back and just probably trying to pull now through the knot, but that's all right. And as I'm doing it, I'm just sort of bending the cap so that it sort of takes on the shape of a little cap. Now I'm just having a look to see where it looks like I still need to get some cohesiveness happening. So basically anywhere where you start to see little holes, you'll just put in some little stitches, just radiating around. Probably need to put a few just across at the centre. And as you get the sort of wool in place, it's like that almost forms a base that you can stitch into. You're not just wrapping you're not just having to wrap the pipe cleaner anymore. You've got the stitches themselves to be able to anchor through. So I can still see I've got some gaps around here, so I'll just work my way around to those and take care of them. Oops. So funny when you've got your thing attached and it goes springing out of your hand, but it's still attached because it's attached to the wall. Otherwise it might have been over the other side of the room. I can't remember if I told you, because I had to stop recording once because I just got a massive knot in my... Who would have thought that I was going to get a massive knot in my wool? But yeah, we've just come back from the dog park with Travis, but there was a dog that was a little bit aggro, so we decided to not stay in the park and to take Travis just for a wander around the neighbourhood instead. We just don't want him to have any negative experiences with other dogs because, yeah, Travis is such a kind soul, would never have malice towards anyone or any dog. So we just don't want him to kind of be a party to any of that behaviour. Because he just thinks all dogs are a kind of happy-go-lucky like him. I think he thinks all dogs get to have the amazing adventures that he has in life. It is so lovely. Yeah, shout out to everyone that always asks after or sends good regards to Travis. It makes me smile because we don't have kids, so Travis is our fur kid, and it's lovely when people take an interest in your family. Speaking of family, I was round at my mum and dad's visiting today, and my poor dad had the shingles vaccine and has had a really bad reaction to it, in that it has given him palsy, palsy, P-A-L-S-Y, balls palsy. I'm probably not saying it quite correctly. I've heard it said, but I can't quite think how it's said, of his face. So his face is drooping down on one side particularly, but even the eye on the other side. And apparently it's a known side effect of the shingles vaccine because it affects, it can affect the nerves in your face. So he's now on cortisone, and it should go away, but yeah, poor. He just looked like, yeah, rocked up at the door, and Dad opened it, and I was thinking, oh, what's going on there? And I said to him, at first I thought maybe he's had a stroke, because when you've got that sort of drooping of the face, I mean, that's a classic sign, but nope, doctors diagnosed it as Ball's palsy and a reaction to the shingles vaccine. Another of our lovely Stitchy creative community over on Discord, they also had a really bad reaction. I don't think it's yet being offered to my age bracket, but I think I'll wait to just sort of see a bit more data on it before I'd consider it, because I've heard a few stories. Oh, and Dad said he was pulled over for a breathalyzer check. So like for those overseas, if you don't have breathalyzers, it's where the police pull you over and check if you've got alcohol in your system. They can also do random drug testing as well. Dad got just pulled over for one of the random alcohol tests. And he commented to the police officer that I probably look a little bit strange in the face. And apparently the police officer's mum had the exact same reaction to the shingles vaccine. So fascinating. So what I've done now is, sorry, I've been too busy talking. So the top's all nicely cohesively stitched together. So I've now come through to the back and just gone back to the front for a moment. And what we can now do is to get the underside to look the way we want it to look. Now, I was thinking if you wanted it to have those little fringy if you're making more of a mushroom style and have those little fringy bits, you could use either this and just go radially around. I'll just show you what I mean. So if you just sort of kept going around, then you get a fringy, flangey sort of bit underneath your mushroom. Or you could use even a more lightweight crochet thread. I probably don't have one quite in the right colour, but yeah, you could use that to do your stitches coming all the way around. But I want to keep these a bit simpler, a bit more like fungi than like mushrooms. And I think it's got enough of a look underneath it that does look a bit like it would look if it was a fungi. And so I could just had a longer thread there, so I'm just putting a stitch through just to hold one of the longer threads down. And as you can see, even where you've brought your pipe cleaner back across to the centre, it kind of just disappears into your little cap, and you can then bend your cap as you want it to be. Let me just get my thread back down to the middle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it. And so when I'm wrapping it, I want to leave some bits of the pipe cleaner, because then you get those nice little fluffy sort of tufts that you tend to see on the stems of fungi or mushrooms. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, and then I'm going to bend my pipe cleaner up and over itself to make a little holdy base. I'll then wrap my wool around it a couple more times. And then I'm going to take my needle through that little area a couple of times just to anchor it. So you're not going through the wire, you're just sort of going through the wool, but wrapping, making sure it's sort of anchored well in place. Do a few more just to be sure. And again, this little base will give you something to stitch into when you're attaching it to your whatever piece you're going to put it on. So just put that one through, and then I'll do a little knot to finish. Like that. So that's our little mushroom. So I might do a smaller one. So that's probably going to be big enough for our small version of it. And I might use some of my glow in the dark yarn for this one, see how that goes. Oops. Okay. Got little green fibres attached to things. That's the one thing when you're working with fibres, you do get a bit of them, yeah, working their way around. So just tying a knot in the end. Oh, that's come out rather too big because it's sort of caught. I'll just do a knot the old style at the end. Just I only need one little bit to hold it in place. Just going to have a sip of tea. I've got a tickle from Fibres. Okay, so I am going to pop through as I did before from the bottom, hold my knot in place there, and then I'm just going to work my way around and do the same process of just getting my mushroom to sort of hold itself in the shape that we want it. I'm just going to work around the two outer layers first. And then I'll come back in and work on the centre after that. So you probably could crochet a top to your mushroom or knit a little top, but the nice thing about the wire is that's what makes it bendable and sort of lets it hold its shape. If I was making very small mushrooms, I could even use those little kitchen ties that you get when you buy a bag of plastic, like freezer bags, because I never tend to use them on my freezer bags. I have a lot of them, so I do keep some of them in my craft room, and it is good little bendable wire as well. Or you could do your own wrapping of some wire, but the nice thing about the pipe cleaners is you get those little tufty bits. Just working my way around. So yeah, you can absolutely use wool or use yarn for this. You could use a finer sort of cotton if you wanted to, then it will end up looking a bit more fluffy on the top unless you go over it more. I've managed to give myself a tangle here. What have I done? I think I've come through something else and I'm pulling on something else. I just cut that little fibre that's caught. It's okay, we'll just try and tuck that fibre in that got a bit caught into it. Probably just trim off that little bit that's sticking out. Probably going to need some more of the yarn anyway for the wrapping step. Try not to come through the yarn again. Just take that loop round to where I want it. So I'm just picking it up with the needle end and just carrying it round. So that's where my little end was. That's what I probably came through before. So I'm going to try and tuck the little endy piece under that loop and anchor it down. Sometimes you might need a pair of pliers to, because again I'm trying to come through just to hold that little loopy bit in place, but I don't think it wants to be particularly held there, so We'll try holding it another way. Come over to the centre. It's just that pesky little loop, but I might need to just push it into the centre there and then hide it as part of the mushroom top. So what I'm now going to do, because I'm going to need some more yarn, let's put a few more stitches in on top. Oops. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty good up there. So I'll just tie it off down here, I think. Just loop it under another bit of thread. And I reckon that should probably stay in place. I might just wrap it this end around and then we can over wrap it when we come in with our next piece of yarn. I'll just wrap it a little ways down and then we'll grab another bit of our glow-in-the-dark yarn. Let's get rid of those little bits. Trimming off most of the end, and then I'll just secrete the knot as best as I can, hopefully better than last time where it was pulling through. Hopefully I'm not. I think I might be trying to go through the knot again. Let's just go up from slightly to the side. You will know if you're trying to go through a knot because you get that real resistance from it. So I'm just going to hold my other little endy bit from before. Come back through, there's that pesky knot again. Let's see if I can just push it up in there. And then I can start my process of winding down. I'm winding over where that other bit of yarn finished off. And then as I come down, I'll give myself a few more little tufty bits. We're not going to need all of this pipe cleaner, but probably enough. I'll use my non-good fabric scissors to chop the bit that I don't want off. Going to make a little loop at the base. Going to fully wrap around that and then put a few stitches in. Again, it's sort of getting tangled as it comes through itself. We just want to get enough little end stitches in to know that it's going to hold itself secure, which I think it will because it's trying to knot on itself anyway. So that's our little mini glow-in-the-dark style mushroom. So let's have a look at our little felted base, which will be our starting point. So I used for this piece some North Ronaldsay, which is a conservation breed. They live on a small island of North Ronaldsay in the UK, just 7 square kilometres. They live on the shore and survive almost exclusively by eating seaweed. These are one of the most ancient sheep breeds that exist today. So very, very cool. It's microns 26 to 30 for those that might mean something to. And there are those, I think that's those sheep. So that's a diet of seaweed, so Japanese style eating. Obviously Japanese style inking has a lot more in it as well. So what I did to create this was I basically took some of this and also some of my biggest piece of wool that I got in my most recent stash, which is a Bergschaf white. A rare sheep breed, comes from the mountainous Tyrol area of Austria in Italy, and the name means Tyrolean mountain sheep. It is a multi-purpose breed which is raised for many different purposes. So I used that as sort of the inner bit because I have much more of that, and then I felted into that some of this lovely rock coloured fibre. And I did that using my multi felting tool and my single felting tool that I got from Snowy Creek Engineering, which I stumbled upon while I was up in Alpine, Victoria, and was able to buy direct from the couple that designed this product. So felting is basically just a process like this. I'm using one of my op-shopped wool blankets as my felting mat. I'm not sure if that's a conventional thing to do or not. And when you want to felt, you're basically just getting the fibres with these little prongs that are on the ends of these felting needles. They just get the fibres to really match together, I guess, and to become a cohesive whole. And the more you felt it, the more it comes together. But as you can see, even in that short time, we've integrated in that particular piece. I usually turn it over. I'm not an expert felter. There are many others online that are expert felters. I'm just wanting to create a nice little base to start. I want something that's got a bit of I guess a bit of hold in it, as in it's got a bit of bit of substance to stitch into. Substance, that's the word I was after. Sorry, it is making my desk vibrate as I do that, because I have various jars and other things sitting here. So what I am thinking for a little structuring element, because what I did when I did this one was kind of thought about different elements that can kind of move the eye through. And something helpful that Fleur talks about is sort of thinking about different colonies that might live in different parts of the forest or the sea or the whatever it is that you're looking at. So rather than just putting the same thing in a whole lot of different places, you're kind of thinking about little clusters, as it were. So I've been having some fun, again, using my pipe cleaners. I'm actually using a red one underneath this, which is just showing through slightly in some places, which is lovely because it just gives a bit of interest. It's just like shining slightly reddy brown through the fabric. This was a really interesting fabric little mini sample I had from the reverse art truck, which had like a layer of threads in between the base fabrics. And so what you see hanging off here was that little layer of threads, and then I've wrapped it around a pipe cleaner, and then I've used another piece of corresponding just green sewing cotton to wrap around that and hold that all together. I've then scrunched it up a little bit on the pipe cleaner. I've joined two pipe cleaners together, and what it does is it gives me this fabulous sort of viney effect that's again bendable and shapeable. And so I thought I might use this as my base piece. I might use this end because it's not got pipe cleaner all the way to the end, and that way I can kind of wrap it around the back of the rock. And I'm thinking I will have it wending its way up here. Check the time. Nope, still going good for time. Alex is on Travis dog feeding duty tonight. Travis has got some nice, beautiful veg. He always has vegetables and some fresh mince meat from the supermarket today. I was making some sausage rolls to take into work. So I'll need some green. Just having a look in my little drawer next to me. No, not that green. I don't know if I had the green that I wanted out already, or is it? No, there it is. So we'll use this one. So it's just a regular sewing cotton. So I'm thinking I will start by stitching this down, and then it kind of gives, as I say, a little structuring element across the piece. I'm going to use my nice long big needle because it will be easy to kind of get it through and not lose it in the piece. So I might start with this end and just come through from the back. I'll probably be adding more felt to the back at the end, and I'll be attaching a little, I'm planning to use one of these little vintage, no, they're really nice sturdy safety pins. I do have some quilt clips as well, but I think I'll just use that one. So I'm going to leave some of these little bits hanging often as little strands because, yeah, it's all about the texture. It's all about the nature's interest. I might just slightly have that one twist over this way, so I'll just put a little stitch through to hold that one where I want it. That's good, I like that. And then, yeah, I think I like that, so I'm going to just work my way along, just couching over my viney piece and putting stitches back to the back of the felt. And so couching is where you're putting a stitch over the top of something on the surface to hold it down. So you can use it for threads that you wouldn't be able to actually sort of, yeah, stitch with, or in this case to be adding a structural element. So if you're interested, I can do another video on my approach to doing this wrapping. I've seen some amazing fibre artists who do wrapping. I've seen their pieces. I haven't seen how they do it, so I just made up my own approach, and I've just had a fun time sort of experimenting. This one's all sort of single coloured, but you can do yeah, multicoloured, interesting things. And I've been having fun even with some of my woven fabric samples from the reverse art truck of pulling some of the fibres out, and that's how I've then sort of harvested things like this, which I think would make amazing sort of mossy floor, or well, not mossy, but like sort of floor of a forest. But then it's given me these lovely fringy bits I've sewn along here, so it's got a hollow to put a pipe cleaner through, and again that could make me a fringy wrapped piece as well. So having lots of fun playing, lots of things I want to try. It's just never enough time in the day to do everything I want to do. But I think this is going to be a lovely little brooch to have. Very excited about this. So as you can see at the back, it's just putting little, that's the, in fact it was an orange, not red, an orange pipe cleaner I used there. But it's just put little stitches into the back, but I'm not worried at all because I can always felt more on the back if I want. I'm going to catch that little fibre that's fallen off and couch that down as well. But I can report that stitching into this felted base is really lovely. It's got enough substance, I feel, to hold it, and it's now, because I've now got something that's got wire in it, I can start to actually bend it as well and get that nice sort of undulation that I love about this piece. Like it's curved, and so I can actually use my wire to help shape this. And so at the end, if it is really sort of curved on the back, I will need to probably felt so that when I put the safety pin on, it's onto a surface. But yeah, I think that's a great starting point. So then I need to think about, yeah, I think I'll keep this as the top and have this as the bottom. Just put an extra stitch in just to hold that, and I might just go and put a stitch or two on just to make sure the end of the pipe cleaner is anchored down properly. Okay, so I'm thinking whether we have one mushroom or two mushrooms. I think maybe just, normally you have to have three, don't you? Or do we just have the one mushroom? Do we have two? Or do we have 3? It's going to be I think we have 3. No, I think we're going to have 3. Even though it'll be a little bit way out there. But no, I think it's going to be a fun brooch, or just a little micro scene. But I do like my brooches. Again, it will be a talking piece. So I'm going to probably just use that same green thread to start to stitch these down, because I'll be putting some of my moss, and I'll show you how I've made this moss. Well, not made it, but brought it together. I just have to first think, how do I want my little mushrooms to be in terms of order? How do I want them to look? Where do I want them positioned? I think that's pretty good. I suppose I can always bend them around anyway once they're there, but I think I'll start with that. So I'm just going to, again, just couch over the base of them to just hold them in place to start, and then I'll probably put some stitches through the bases where I created those nice little sort of slight bulges to help me have something to stitch into. Just get them in place to start. Then I'll put some extra stitches in. Can't tell you how much fun this is if you haven't tried texture play. And as you can see, you don't need complicated supplies. If you don't have felt, you could just do this on as in if you don't have felting supplies, you could do it on a piece of just regular felt or fabric, and just maybe put some texture on it. You don't need the special fibres. You can just felt with. You can kind of pull apart your regular wool and felt with that. I think it does just need to be a wool content. I think you can have some other non-wool contents woven in, but yeah, it does need a wool component to be successfully felted, or a natural fibre possibly. Some of the things I've got here aren't wools. I haven't done enough felting to really be able to report, but again, I'm sure you can find answers out there. Just putting some more little stitches through to hold these in place, because it's better to get these anchored down now. I'll just finish using this green thread. And then I think we'll be ready to add some moss. So I'll just tie it off on the back. So yeah, these will be able to move around. What I also do with my felt is if I've got any little sort of stray bits of thread sticking out from my felting, I will just give it a little haircut just to get a smoother base. But yeah, those are going to be great, I think. So let's add in some of our moss. And so to make this moss, I used a combination of my fibres. I used some of this Corriedale grass coloured, and so Corriedale developed by crossing Lincolns, and this was the word Leicesters, with the Merinos in the 1880s. Thanks for those that helped me with pronunciation on that. Comes from Australia and New Zealand, available in a large variety of colours and fibre diameters. So I used some of this dyed green mixed with some of this one, which is Shetland olive. And then I brought in some of my eucalyptus, super shiny eucalyptus fibres in the saffron. I think this one's saffron, yep. And the leaf colour. And then I brought it all together and sort of mixed it together. I don't know if any more has fallen down somewhere or if there's any more over here, but if not, we can probably actually make a bit more of it ourselves as well, because I think we're going to need it. So let me grab a bit more of it, a bit more of that colour, a bit more of the olive. So I just pull a bit off and pull a bit off my end of my eucalyptus fibre. I just find this fascinating. It's just so luminous. Bit of that. And then and you can use a hairbrush, I've got some dog's brushes. This was something that Martha suggested to me. Let me grab one of them. You can use 2 of these and rub them sort of through, but with these fibres, they're so soft and lovely that I find I can just do it with my hands. Just get them mixed in. Kind of don't mind if there's some little bits still together. And so then probably just start with a smaller quantity of it. I'm then going to use my single little felting tool and just start attaching that in. Just attach that into here. So this is just a single felting needle on it, and it gives you that more precision, whereas this one with the 3 is more when you're doing a larger area. Main thing is to keep your felting needle straight, otherwise they can break. I think in my very starting out experimental, I managed to break one very early on because I just didn't really know what I was doing, but since then, with appropriate technique, I've been okay. I think because it's a straight single one, it's got that more propensity to sort of not go in straight, whereas the other one. So as you can see, it's very quick to start to get it felting in. I can always sort of add more. Do I want to? I think I'll do a bit more of this around here, but I did have a little idea. Let's see if I've lost it. No. I made myself a little crochet by doing a single strand of crochet just with my fingers, and I can probably share that in another video because I don't think we'll have time today, but I made myself a little crochet little enclosure that I thought I might nest down in one of these little spots down here. So again, I might get my thread. I'll use this one, which is what I use to stitch the single strand together to make the little nest. And I was thinking I might put a little gem or something down into it. Yes, here it is. So I had this in one of my mixed beads that I brought back from Bright, and I thought I might stitch that into the center. I'm not sure if you can see it sort of gleaming. It might not be catching for you, but it just adds this little bit of mystery into the center. So I'll probably need a quite fine needle. See if this one will go through it. Yep, that will go through. So I'll put a knot in that one. It's already got the green regular sewing cotton attached to it. Oops, didn't actually get a knot. Oh, just managed to stab my finger in midair. Let's hope I don't bleed on my Nature's Fibre. What was I working on the other night and I started bleeding? We are leaving our DNA, aren't we, in our stitch pieces? Okay, so I'll pop through from the bottom, leave the knot there, and then I will get rid of the fibres that are trying to nest into my bead, come through the bead, and I'll go back through the bottom, so I just anchor my bead in the base of my little hole, and I want it to sit on its side. There we go. You can just ever so faintly there, but we know there's something interesting and exciting in there. So then I'm going to just have it coming out from here. Try not to unthread my needle, but be unsuccessful in that. So yeah, let me know if you'd like to see a little video on how I do my rather bodgy version of little crocheted pots, because I can't crochet a pot, but I can crochet with my fingers a single row, and then I can stitch it into a little nest or a little something of interest. And so I'm just going to put some stitches through the base of that to hold it in place. I can always put another little bead in. I did have some bigger beads, but I felt that they were a bit too showy. I just didn't want to have anything too... Yeah, I can see it shining through, so we shall see if we think it needs anything else. But again, I just think that adds, yeah, lots and lots of interest when you're looking at the little brooch. So I think that's held in place enough. And then I was thinking I would bring in some of these river rocks or forest floor rocks, and just put a little cluster of those as though they've got caught in the vine against the bigger rock. So I think I'm going to need to, where will I cut it? That's up near a clasp. Good thing about the wool is it will sort of hold my beads in place, so I'll just take a few off so I've got a bit of a selection to choose from. And then I thought I might put a little cluster of them up in here. I think they look like they've got decent sized holes on them, so that's a good thing. But I'm thinking I might try and do some little French knots on top of them over where the holes are. And I might use this beautiful, I used this one when I was doing a lot of my knots in this piece. That's why I've almost got through this wonderful one. I was at the, I managed to pop into the Australasian Quilt Convention when I was heading home from work at lunchtime yesterday, and I should have got some more. I did go past the Wonderfill stand, but I thought, no, I don't need any, but I should have got this one. But I can make my own variegated threads now as well, so I can make some in this colourway. Let's just get rid of those bits of thread. I'm really happy to be back playing. I've been kind of jumping between projects, which I enjoy doing too, because that way I never get bored. But then you kind of sometimes just feel a bit of a pull towards a particular... Actually, I probably will first of all have to do a little stitch over, and then I might come back and do a knot after that. Thinking aloud as I create. Now I want the other side, so let's just make sure our knot goes around that way. Sometimes the things, when you stitch them on, they have their own idea of which way they're going to go. Okay, and then I'll pop back through and place a knot on top, I think. We shall see. Maybe I should get all my rocks in place first, but we'll start with a knot, and then we'll go from there. Then we've got a bit of a plan. Do 4 wraps. Go back through the hole, hold my thread, and that's just given me a little knot sitting up there, which is good. And then I'll pop up over here, and what one? Do we want to bring these sort of more goldy? Yeah, I think that's kind of nice because it does bring in a bit of that almost yellowy goldy colour. Do we want that side? No, I think I want that side. Again, I'll need to put a couple of stitches in just to hold the rock where I want it to be. And I love with the felt, it's a bit like with the punch needle, it gives you a lovely surface to be stitching into. The pieces actually sort of, yes, almost sink into the base. So yeah, really glad I got all those fibres, including some bigger bits of the wool, because that provides a great thing that I can mix other colours into, like I did with the rock. Not on the surface, not let it sink through. And I might put another little one. No, I don't think I want don't want the gold. I think that's a bit too much. Let's see if there's another one coming off that I want. Wondering if there's one that's sort of part-way gold, part-way. It's got a bit of white on it, so that's a bit interesting. Oh, and that wraps around nicely, that other one. Okay, how are we going to get this one anchored the way we want it? Maybe I'll put it down on that angle. And then maybe I'll put another. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out in your op shops for either broken jewellery that has interesting stones or bits and pieces on it, because yeah, rather than having to buy supplies like beads or stones or try and work out how you can attach in regular stones that don't have holes, this is a great way. And particularly if it's a broken piece of jewellery, then you're potentially saving it from landfill. Well, you probably are saving it, not potentially, you are. Just make sure you do use your stash. Something I'm very serious about this year. If I'm bringing things in, then yeah, they need to be things that I'm using. But something great about this fibre art, as I said, is that you can just use so many things that you already have in your craft room, even if it's taking apart some of your wools to create some fibres that you can then felt, or because that's how I started out felting before I got this delivery of beautiful fibres. I was just pulling apart some wools to make my own fibres. So now I'm just doing some French knots into the tops of the rocks, almost so it looks like there's little sort of growths over the surface. Again, I'm thinking I probably need to do a fifth little stone, because we usually like to have five things, odd numbers of things. Don't know what I want as one, maybe that one. Kind of want something that's going to sink up into it. Yeah, I think that could work. It's got a bit of white on it as well, which kind of brings in the mushroom colours. And I'm just going to nestle it underneath one of the other rocks. Not sure what type of rock this is. Don't know if it naturally occurs in this colour, because I know sometimes they'll apply some sort of dyes to things. My brother's a geologist. If he was watching, he could tell me, but I don't think he'll be watching a stitching video. Although he did used to, as a kid, he'd make things out of leather, like little tool belts or other bits and pieces, little pouches. we were brought up to be handy and to craft things. So it's been a pretty nice day today. We've had a wet week, but and it only just rained a little bit earlier on today when I was heading down to Mum and Dad's. And also sorting out some boxes because I'm getting my house ready to rent out. Clearing out some boxes where I found old boyfriends' photos and all sorts of things. So it's like, what do you do with these things? I mean, we don't, as I said, we don't have kids, who's going to be interested in these bits? But they're kind of memories that you want to have. It's nice to flip back, not necessarily the photos of old boyfriends, but like letters from childhood friends and photos and all sorts of things. It was just a bit of a blast from the past as I sort of decanted them into a larger box to sort through. There we go. That's a little cluster down there. And I can always also, just to kind of soften the area a bit, I can felt in a little bit of the green, my mixed green sort of mossiness. And I can even put little bits of that sort of down into, that's a much more yellow one. Don't want to damage my felting tool too much though. Oops, I just knocked a bead off. But yeah, I'll just put a little bit of that into the area. That's that more saffron coloured, but I think it's quite nice. Maybe a little bit less. A little bit of saffron goes a long way, as in cooking. And again, I'll be able to sort of continue, bringing bits in until I've got exactly the look and colour I want. That's the nice thing about felting. You can just sort of keep adding bits in. And then I've got my little dimensional piece up here. And then I was thinking I wanted to do like a little fungi, like the one that I've got here out of a ceramic, but I was wondering if I could do that with some of this edge of a doily, but do a sort of, you know how you get those fungi that are sort of layered, but I imagine they would sort of cluster. Where would they cluster? Or the other thing I've got is these little ones that I thought I could put in somewhere as a little cluster fungi. Maybe I put some of those under there, or maybe I put my little fungi along here. Okay, let's just try and create this fungi first, and then we'll decide if it's got a place to go. I'm going to get some of my crochet thread. Just take that off there. I don't think it's going to come undone. Put that aside. Don't want to keep you here too long, so I might just quickly do just a little bit of so what do we think? I don't know if it actually needs it. I'm kind of looking at it and I'm actually thinking maybe I think there's enough interesting little elements here that we might leave the fungi for another. I think there's enough fungi on one little place, but I think I will add some more felted moss in here so it kind of runs over the top. So we can play fungi with doilies and lace and sort of beads another day. Because it'd be nice to finish this in under an hour. We are just on time. So I'm going to call that. I'll obviously finish it off a little bit more and just finish felting that down. But I'll call that it, and I will see you back for another episode in texturing as well as slow stitch. But yeah, do let me know if you'd like to know any more or see some further videos, and we can do some more texture play around creating the vines or the little pouch, etc. Thanks everyone. Bye.